doing this vlog style. It's just what works, and I guess the hard part is me editing it, but I'm gonna go the extra mile and just like do the thing. And it's funny because I'm a cult starter now, by the way. I didn't mean to be, it just kind of happened. But like when I have my clients, like I video and I edit it, so now I'll have two things to edit and I can just get it done in one sitting. It'll be great. But yeah, I don't know where being a cult starter came from. Someone was just like, hey, I'll pay you if you can get my horse good under saddle. And I was like, okay. And then I did it. So, but anyways, we're going to work on collection with Mooney. And I guess I'll kind of preface by saying, I don't want to go too into detail about why my headgear setup is the way it is. I'm working on changing it and I'm trying to transition slowly. Cause this horse, was trained in a German martingale, which is kind of cheating when we're asking for collection. I will say it's pretty long, and so the most it does is encourage him. I think it's too long to make him. But this was the setup that I had Tequila in for a bit when we were kind of like restarting. And it worked out. Mooney was also ridden in a twisted wire. I don't know where my twisted wire went, but as you can see, this is just a normal smooth snaffle. And I meant to get a twisted wire, but I'm broke, so I was like, we're just gonna have to use what we have. But right now the setup is good and he's gotten used to it. He doesn't feel heavy, and I feel like when he like runs or drifts away, it's not a bit problem. I think it's just he doesn't know where to put his little feet. So that is currently what I'm fighting against. I wouldn't really call it much of a fight, but that's the situation. That's what we're dealing with. But yeah, so he's peeing. I'm gonna work on collection, and because he is a little baby guy, and it's like, he's just, you'll see, he's a great mover, but he's like gangly as hell. So we're gonna see what we can get. And honestly, with his collection, just because I've been toying with it before I even signed up for this, he has a lot of issues on his right side. He's getting a chiro tomorrow, so we're going to see if there's shit out of whack. But I know we were aiming for a high number of circles, but at the end of the day, he's going to tell us where he's at and what he can handle for the day, and we'll do our best to try to do that. That was me kicking beet pulp. My camera stopped filming. I always start with like a 2-minute lunge with him. Hopefully by the end of this, that's something that we can wean off of. It's just something I do. It helps me figure out where he is. You know, is something spooky over here today? Is he feeling some type of way? And just kind of that. But hopefully by the end of this, that is one of my goals, where I won't feel the need to have to do that. And so I could get on, but it's just our routine, so that's what we'll be doing. Before we start talking about the horses, I am next to a chicken coop, so there might be a rooster. I apologize. Before we get into the ride portion, I just want to talk about Mooney a little bit. He is a 4-year-old that I got. He didn't really go off property while he was there, and I've only had him for a little over 2 weeks, so everything is still kind of fresh and new to him, which is kind of the reason why I lunge him, just to see where he's at. If he thinks that a new side of the arena is spooky today, or I can just gauge this is where I'm going to need his focus. And so even when I'm lunging him, I can see him looking out to the other side of the arena where there's horses. It's the pigs that are yelling at me. Oh God. Anyways, and so I was able to kind of gauge, like, okay, when we go over to this side, he's probably going to start looking at those horses. And I don't like to fight with him. I understand that I have a smooth snaffle and I have a German martingale, which the more I looked over this video, the more I realized it really wasn't doing anything. It's just kind of there. But yeah, so when I got on him, you'll see me, I just kind of walk him around. I do want to explain though, when he does get, there's the rooster, when he does get distracted, I don't like to make my reins heavier to ask him to give to me vertically or to give me that collection. I usually go ahead and do something that I know he's going to understand right away compared to the thing that we're working on that he clearly needs a little more work in. So usually I'll put my inside leg on him and ask for a little bit of bend, and that'll get his attention back. I'm so sorry about all the animals. I just sat out here and now they're all yelling at me and I'm just trying to make a video. But yeah, so we walk around here. I sped it up because you guys don't need to see me walking for however long it was. It was like 8 minutes or something like that. Walk on both sides, and I kind of wanted to start establishing what I was asking for at a walk before I moved on to anything else. When he does give to me, whether that's at a walk or a trot, I do my best to try to give him a lot of rein back to let him know that's what I'm asking for, and then I'll be softer. I never want to get into a fight, especially with him. Like I said, he was ridden in a twisted wire, and I don't want him to have to feel like if he does make a mistake, he doesn't need to worry about that wire coming down. Rather, I feel like I can have an easier feel off it and I can have a better communication with him. And also, I just don't want to buy a twisted wire. So we're making the smooth snaffle work right now. So the right side is his harder side. And you'll kind of see, the more I look at myself ride, the more I really see I ride like a colt starter. Like, I don't know how else to say it, of like, I'm just kind of so loose and I feel like I'm doing a million things to kind of help manage him. One thing that he is having issues with is kind of staying in between my reins and staying in between my legs. So that was just kind of something that I was working on kind of passively here. But the main idea is that when I pick up my rein and I ask him to drive into the bridle, I need him to soften into that rather than fight it. Because it's sped up, it's going to be kind of hard to see. But there was a time in here where he wanted to kind of fight and he was kind of grabbing the bit from me a little bit. And instead of increasing that pressure, I just kept holding it and waited until he softened into it. And sure enough, he did. It was no big deal. But yeah, whenever he puts that head down, I try to give a release. I try to give a little bit more leg if I feel like he starts losing it. And you know, when I squeeze my leg, then I have my hands up and I have that pressure on that rein, I'm asking him to lift his back up and move into that bridle. I'm not necessarily asking him to go faster. And it's funny because the second I release my legs a little bit, you can see he kind of puts the brakes on. So that's something we're working on. But he gets a little more consistent about kind of staying at this nice and easy. I don't want to put him up with his head high and him sucking his chin back, but rather he's staying lower than my saddle horn, even if he's not tucking his nose in, which is what I'm really looking for. I want him to be relaxed in my hands and moving with a purpose. So now we get into the real fun stuff. So now we're loping. His lope to the left side's really good. You can see he kind of gets distracted over here. So I kind of talk to him and I put my inside leg into him a little bit to remind him, like, I need you to stay with me and I need you to focus on what we're working on right now. I didn't expect him to take him around this many circles. Usually I do 3 and call it a day. And he was just working really good and I was just taking what I was getting and we were just building up that strength. That's my goal here, because on the right side, it's like he physically can't hold himself for very long. So the right side, you can see I didn't pick at it. I didn't want to frustrate him. And he gets the idea when you stop him and you go to pick up the correct lead again, he jumps right into it like it's no big deal. And then he started to have a coughing fit. So I just stopped him and just let him like have a second to like breathe and not, you know, have a freaking asthma attack out there. And I will give it to him. It's really dusty right now. And even my allergies are acting up. So I don't blame him. And then I was like, okay, well, let's pick up the left lead again and see if you're going to cough up a lung or not. And then you can see he lifts his head up. He wants to see what the other horses are doing. So I just kind of bend him and he comes right back to me. That was a really good example right there of how I handle that. Now it's not sped up. And so before I go into the lope, I always make sure that he's with me at the trot. Or else I'm kind of just setting myself up for failure. And then we go into the lope. You can see I kind of move my hands around a lot to try to give him that release. And then when he comes out of it, asking him to go back into it and just the give and take is real with riding this guy. And then we switch directions. And so when he swaps his lead, he goes right out of frame, which is a bummer because I was hoping to see what exactly was going on. So we go into our little lope. And he also does this thing where he'll kind of like dive in and then come out of it. So you'll see me kind of play with my outside rein a little bit to try to balance that. And so like the fact that he gave me this full circle was a really big deal because normally he can't do that, or I have to make it super wide or do really weird things. So he swaps right here. So I slow him down and say, nope, try again. And he goes, okay, I can do that. And I was like, great, you got, and he usually swaps over here. So the fact he swapped on the other side was nice because I'm like, oh, he's not spooking anything. He's just catching himself and throwing his hip out, but he's also a baby. So I don't blame him. And then we walked around for some amount of time. I wasn't super harpy on the collection, but there was a couple of times where I was kind of playing with the amount of pressure that I could ask and that he would give me. But I love him with all of my heart, and he is the sweetest boy, and he tries. And so I'm excited to keep chipping away at this and get him stronger.